It's the NBA playoffs, so it's appropriate that I show you how to do this basketball illustration in Adobe Illustrator. If you're new to the channel, my name is Raymond Stone, and I'm a designer and artist based in San Francisco. But I'll probably change the way I introduce myself video by video because I am a UX designer by trade. But since I'm doing an illustration video today, then today I'll introduce myself as a designer and artist. So anyway, let's dive right in. Oh, and I promise that the tutorial isn't going to be as grainy as this cheap webcam shows. I'm just too cheap to buy a better webcam right now. So I have Adobe Illustrator open. I'm going to make a file that's 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels. I'm just going to rename this basketball. And then create. I'm going to come over here to the left and select the ellipse tool. The key command for the ellipse tool on a Mac is L. I'm just going to click somewhere on the canvas to bring up the height and width. I'm going to lock the aspect ratio. I'm going to make this 1000 by 1000 pixels and select OK. I'm going to come over here to the right to stroke. I'm going to get rid of the stroke. And I'm going to change the fill to this orange here. And I'm going to align the objects to the center both vertically and horizontally. I'm going to come over here to the selection tool, which the key command for Mac is V. I'm going to select the circle and I'm going to copy it by selecting Command C on Mac. And I'm going to paste that copy in place by selecting Command Shift V. And I'm just going to drag that over to the right where the center of it is aligned at 1140 pixels. And I'm going to change the fill to blue so we can tell the difference. And once again, I'm going to copy that, paste it in place, and I'm going to drag it over to the left. And I'm going to align the center of that one to where it's minus 140 pixels off of the canvas. And I'm going to select both of the blue circles by pressing Shift and then clicking on both of them and coming up to Object and going down to Path, Offset Path, and I'm going to preview that, and let's go with minus 30 pixels. Let's see how that looks. That looks okay. Now I'm going to come over here to the rectangle tool, which the key command for that is M. So making sure that lock is unchecked, I'm going to make that 30 pixels by 1200. And then select OK. And I'm going to center that vertically and horizontally on the canvas. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to, holding Shift, I'm going to rotate the copy 90 degrees. So now I'm going to select every object. I'm going to come over to the Shape Builder tool, which the key command for that is Shift M. And you want to click and drag whatever you want it to build into a shape. So I'm going to just click and drag inside of these lines here. And that should create my shape, that black part of the basketball, the sort of laces part of a basketball. And I'm going to come over here and do the same, but this time I'm going to hold Option, and that will delete everything we don't want. So I'm going to do that over here, I'm going to do that on the top, and I'm going to do that on the bottom. And we're left with something that looks like a basketball. So I'm going to select these blue shapes. I'm going to hold Shift and select all of them and delete, and looks like there's another layer of them, so I'm going to do that again. And now we have something that looks like a basketball. So I'm just going to select that the blue laces part, and I'm going to make that black color. So this would be a good place to stop if this is the level of detail that you're looking for, but I'm going to finesse this a little bit more. So I'm going to take that black part and I'm actually going to delete it. I'm going to select the whole thing, and while holding down Command, it'll bring up these little nodes, and these little nodes will allow you to drag into the shape and it will curve the edges of each of those shapes. And since we selected all of them, it'll do them evenly. And so you can see the little curve over here. You can see how all of those shapes have a slight curve to their corners. I'm going to come over here to the ellipse tool on the left. Again, the key command for that is L. I'm going to select somewhere on the canvas, and I'm going to make that just under 1000 by 1000. Let's go 990 by 990. And let's change the fill of that to black. And I'm going to center that horizontally and vertically on the canvas. And by pressing Command Shift and then the left bracket, it will send it to the back. And so now we have a slightly more realistic basketball than we had a moment ago, where you can see the little grooves on the side of it. So now I'm going to select this whole thing, select Command C to copy and Command V to paste. And I'm going to drag this down. I'm going to get rid of the black part. I'm going to drag and select all these orange shapes that are left. I'm going to come up to Effect, and I'm going to go down to Texture and Stained Glass. We should have something that looks like these scales here. So I'm going to change the cell size to, let's go down to 4. I'm going to change the border thickness to, let's go with 1. And this light intensity I don't want to mess with, because see, it just creates like a big sun shape in the middle, so I'm going to leave that at 1. And so that looks good. Let's select OK. I'm going to drag select all of these. I'm going to select Command G to group them, and I'm going to align these to the center, both horizontally and vertically, to place it on top of the other basketball shape that we have. And I'm going to change the opacity to 10%. See, and so now we just created little scales that allow you to grip the basketball. And this would be a good place to stop if you just want the orange basketball, but if you want to add a little flair to it, then there's still more that we could do to this illustration. So what I'm going to do is grab this top layer with the scales. I'm going to drag this off of the canvas. I'm going to select that group of shapes. I'm going to ungroup it by selecting Command Shift G. And now what I'm going to do is, by holding Shift, I'm going to select every other one of these shapes here. And I'm going to come over here to Fill, and I'm just going to change that from orange to white. And I'm going to do the same with these two shapes, and I'm going to change those from orange to this red color. And with the remaining two orange shapes, I'm going to change that one to a blue color. Let's go with a darker blue. I'm going to come over here and do the same to the corresponding shapes of the basketball that's on the canvas. I'm going to change those two shapes to blue. I'm going to change those two shapes to red. And I'm going to press Shift and select those shapes and change the remaining orange ones to white. So now I'm going to select those. I'm going to select Command G to group them. I'm going to make the group 10% opacity, and I'm going to align them to the center, both vertically and horizontally on top of the canvas. And so now we have what looks like that old school ABA basketball from the 70s. But as you can see, the white part of it is kind of blending into the background. So we can create a background by selecting the rectangle tool. And we'll just make one that's 1200 by 1200. And we'll change the fill. We'll change the fill to a gray color. And we'll send that rectangle to the back by selecting Command Shift left bracket. And we'll center that to the canvas both horizontally and vertically. And so with the gray background, we could see the ball on top of it. Anyway, I hope you got something out of this. If you like that, then I guess like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.